Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Empowering You TV. I'm so excited that you're here with us today. My name is Amy Hutton, and I'm your host for this show. I now live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, which is out on the west, towards the west coast with the Rocky Mountains, although I grew up in Pickering, Ontario, which is about 20 minutes east of Toronto. Each episode, you will hear remarkable stories of women who have beaten the odds, risen above all challenges, and are now living their amazing lives full on like the brave, empowered women they're born to be. For more information or to be featured on the Empowering You TV show, please reach out to me at amy@inchbyinchempowerment.com. For today's show, I am so excited because we have a wonderful lady by the name of Linda, and Linda is here from the United States. And Linda's actually my first interviewee guest on the show from the United States. So it's my international one, and I am so excited to be interviewing her. We haven't met yet in person. We just know each other through Facebook. But let me read just a snapshot of her story of who she is to you all. Linda Bard has lived passionately as a creative entrepreneur and artful storyteller for more than 2 decades. She's known as the executive muse at her company, Find Your Creative Voice, where she is a sought-after life purpose specialist, motivational speaker, and international best-selling author. Linda is famous for transforming her cosmic acupuncture moment of being bitten by a diamondback rattlesnake into her life's work by helping people discover their purpose, own their gifts, and make a difference in the world. As she loves to say, I help you to see you so you can be you without apology. For more information, please visit her website at www.findyourcreativevoice.com. So hi, Linda, how are you today?
Hi, Amy. Thank you. I'm doing well, actually. Just got back. I took a little sun break because it's been raining like nobody's business here in Portland this past winter. But was down in Arizona for a week, so that kind of revived my spirits and had a beautiful Mother's Day, and now just getting back into the groove. So thank you for inviting me today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So you mentioned you were down in California. So how about you share with us where you are now? Like, where do you live? Where are you?
Oh, I live in Portland, and I'm originally from Chicago. Both my husband and I grew up there, and we basically decided to come out to Portland. He's a jazz musician. Ooh. And so he had been out on tour with his band several times on the West Coast, and so he had friends and contacts and that sort of thing. And he said, let's check out Portland. And so we came here in 1983. And here we are, still kicking it. But we were down in California. We were down in Arizona because part of it is we're thinking maybe we won't spend the whole winter here in Portland anymore.
That's awesome. And for those of us who are geographically have some issues with that, Portland is in Oregon, and Oregon is below Seattle, Washington, which is above British Columbia. So you're on the West Coast.
Right. We're about 180 miles due south of Seattle.
Yeah. That's so cool. I'm so excited to have you here today. Hey. So what in your life have you overcome? Can you share with us briefly your story with us?
Well, it's interesting about story because one of the things that I really am a believer in, that part of what keeps us stuck is that we really, hang on to our stories. And because they're familiar to us, they give us a certain identity. And one of the things that I say to my clients is that this, when you let go of the past lets go of you. And which doesn't mean that you don't honor the story or the event or the person that has, transpired around, it just means that it doesn't have to define you anymore. So my story for the longest time really was losing my dad a week before my 11th birthday. And it was one of those really traumatic things from the standpoint that we had all taken a road trip from Chicago down to Tucson, Arizona, to see my grandparents, his parents, and and it was really kind of our first big family trip and all that. And then my brother and sister and I were gonna spend another couple of weeks with my grandparents, and my mom and dad drove back to Chicago. Well, it was, and again, I don't even know the timeline specific to it, but I would have to say within a couple of weeks after they drove back to Chicago, my dad died of a brain aneurysm. And so it was just like, here I was, and it literally was 6 days before my 11th birthday. And I was on the cusp of really stepping into womanhood, and your work with, tween and teen girls, how critical a time that is for having that identity of who you are as a woman, how you are perceived, and have that male role model available to you. And so this whole thing just kind of rocked my world. And so, I went through all of these firsts. My first plane ride, which was to fly back home, my first funeral, my first, all of these things. And at that point in time, probably the biggest thing for me, when I looked back, going through my teenage years, was I had lost that mirror of my father to tell me, and show me how I was growing into womanhood. So that was really a very, very challenging story to let go of, because it impacted, my behavior during my teen years. I was a little wild child, and I just, that there was a part of me that felt comforting. And if I let go of that story, it meant I was letting go of the memory of my dad. That's how I was thinking about it that way. So, that story really ultimately is about, and partly has also informed how I approach life and how I approach my work in the world with my clients, is that, okay, let's look at that story. What purpose, did it serve in letting you, grow and learn? And where is it holding you back now? Where can you let it go so that you can, bring a more full version of yourself to the world that's not impacted or tinged by the negative energy of the story?
Yeah, that's important. That's really crazy. And 11 years old, to lose a parent figure is tough. I am grateful that I have not, so I'm not able to relate or understand what you and others go through at a young age if they lose a parent figure. However, I can imagine that it was probably pretty crazy and pretty confusing and sad and angry and so many feelings all at the same time. So thank you for sharing that with us all. Now, however, though, if you could change anything that you've been through in your life, that you've experienced or been through, what would that be and why, if anything?
I think that I probably would, in looking back, I'm a firm believer that we need the experiences that we have in our lives for good reason. And the work that I do in the world with hand analysis really speaks to that thing of, life is about, it's our journey. We're on this path of answering our call to adventure for what it is we're here to be in this life. And so my mentor calls it that we're spending time at Earth University, right? And so what is our major? What are we majoring? What is the courses, the curriculum that we have to experience in order to get to a certain place? And so I probably, if there was one thing that I wouldn't have extended my sort of rebellious, I know what I want, and I'll just do this and I'll just do that, and have been a little bit more focused. But that's one of the things, though, that allows me to be such an amazing mentor to the women that I work with, because they are all very much multi-passionate women. They have lots of things that they have done in their life and have done well. They've been very successful at that. And they're struggling with that piece of, how do I focus? How do I narrow it down? How do I, pick the things that are all of my skill sets and aptitudes, and how do I bring them into this next phase of what, my journey is calling me to do? So I wish would I've liked to have gotten to where I'm at a little more quickly? Yeah, certainly. But I also, value all of the steps along the way.
Yeah, totally. I thank you. That's pretty awesome. So Linda, I sort of heard it in your explanation a moment ago, but can you tell us what your why is? Why do you do what you do today?
Well, I'm a big believer that, for my whole life, I've been self-employed for 30 plus years. And part of that was because I just could not put myself in a position, and I tried, but I couldn't put myself in a position of like showing up at X o'clock and, doing all of these things and then being done, but having to sit until X o'clock before they would let me leave. And I just said, I can't work for somebody. I have to be my own boss. And so really my why is to help people understand that, yes, there are people that need to do, everybody certainly has a job to fulfill, and some people are very content to be working for someone, and they're, if they have the opportunity to have some sort of creative expression in that job, that's awesome, because being an entrepreneur, not everybody is wired for that. It's a challenge to be your own boss, because there's also the rabbit hole of, hey, nobody's checking on me, I think I'll just sit on Facebook for an hour, that kind of thing. So my big why is really just to help people get into that place of, let's unearth these hidden gifts that you have, so that you can really bring them out into light and see how you can use those to be doing the work that you want to be doing, whether you're your own boss or not. Find a place that you want to be working at. Find if it's a nonprofit that has a cause that's dear to you. But so many people just kind of stay in their comfort zone because it's comfortable, right? They don't want to get challenged about that. And I'm a stir the pot kind of gal. So if nothing else, I get you to look at and answer questions really truthfully about, are you honoring all that you can be?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true, and I know I can relate to that about being an entrepreneur and also working. I do, I work full time during the day, and I have my business that I do part time at the moment, and it's sometimes a different kind of skill set of setting very clear boundaries. Okay, I come home from work, and I get home at roughly 4 o'clock, 4:30, and then I have tasks that I do every day that I work on business things until 7 p.m. And then 7 p.m. on is like my time that I, watch television or whatever.
Right.
So yeah,
and that's very important to, what you talk about is because when you're having to, like you say, wear multiple hats, the one thing that we forget is the me time, right? The self-care piece. Yeah. And we get so focused on, getting stuff done and so yes, that it really is important. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, totally. You're welcome. Yeah. So I know this has to go into your business. So how about we talk about that? So what is your business about and what do you do?
So I've been a serial entrepreneur for the last 30 years. And I do have a couple of businesses. So my very first business, which I still do, is I do voiceover work for commercials and corporate narration and audiobooks and that kind of thing. And that was sort of the first thing that allowed me to be a stay-at-home mom and raise my 2 kids, but allowed me a creative outlet, and it allowed me to bring in relatively decent money for the actual amount of time that I was spending doing the work. And so I did that. And then about 20 years ago, I started a second business where I write and produce audio tours for museums. Oh. So that's, kind of a kooky thing. And it was like, well, how did you get into that? People always say, how did you get into that? And my husband, like I said, is a musician, but he also has a recording studio that does audio post-production for film and television and stuff. And we had, he had a client that came in from New York that was doing the audio tours for the Portland Art Museum. And we're going, well, why is the Portland Art Museum bringing someone in from New York? We could be doing this. And so we ended up, putting stuff in place, and we've had that business for 20 some years now. And so then about 6 or 7 years ago, I was at that place where I had been, what's interesting to me is that in a lot of the online marketing that is going on now, with business coaching or helping people become entrepreneurs or all that, a lot of the underlying message is, be your own boss and have freedom and, make money and all of this stuff. And it was like, okay, yeah, I've been doing that the last 20 some years. Right. And for me, it was just a place where it's like, I could be doing more of the same, and that would be cool and awesome. But I was really starting to feel this, inner calling to give back, to have it be more, for my work to have more meaning. And that's what I started. That's when I came across the hand analysis piece and found out it to be just an incredible diagnostic tool that literally, we carry this map around in our hands, and part of it takes into consideration your fingerprints, which we've, they're formed at about 16 weeks in utero. And our fingerprints, nobody has the same fingerprints. Even identical twins have different fingerprints. So it is an energetic map of what your soul's, agreement is for you to be in this lifetime. And it was just like, wow, this is incredibly cool. And it satisfied my left brain, need for data, but it also honored a lot of my right brain and healer aspects of being able to use my intuition to help share the information in ways that I would know that you might need to hear it versus the way someone else might need to hear it. And then that's how I started Find Your Creative Voice. And actually the name came to me before I even knew what the heck it was even going to look like.
That's awesome. What a journey. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and I thought the exact same thing when you mentioned doing the audio for a museum. I'm like, how the heck did you get into doing that? So that's really, really cool. Thank you for sharing that, Linda.
Yeah.
Do you have a testimonial that you can share from a client, or a story from a client who has changed or transformed from working with you?
Well, I think, I just spoke with a client this morning to do a follow-up call. And what's interesting is, the challenge for me personally is that I'm not teaching somebody how to, do their social media or, develop their sales technique or their closing conversations or, how to make six figures, in a year. That's really not my thing, although stuff can come up around that. But really what I'm doing is helping someone understand really who they are from the inside out, and in a way that allows them to look at things that are coming across their desk, or coming, showing up in their life, and making really truly grounded and, tapping into their gut feeling about, is this right for me? Because a lot of times what ends up happening is they have this desire, I want to be doing this, and they always are looking outside of themselves. And so inevitably they end up, buying this program and trying that and doing all of these things, which I'm not saying that you shouldn't, you need to learn from other people, especially if they have experience in that particular subject. But if you don't know who you are first, you're just going to be jumping from one lily pad to the next, right? So when you get to that place of being really in touch with and grounded into, what I say, it's like having your vision and your voice in alignment. So clients, this client that I spoke to this morning, she was like, oh my God, I usually do a follow-up about 90 days after we do the initial reading and consultation. And she's like, I can't tell you how many times I've just looked back at my, handprint map and have used it for this decision and that decision. And, it's just been invaluable. And then I had another client who I actually went to her house. She had a birthday a couple of weeks ago, and she had taken her handprints, because when I do the prints, we ink your hands and take a print, and then I hand draw and color and key all of the information. And she had taken them and like framed them and put them on her coffee table or something. And I was just like, oh my God. And she goes, you have no idea how this is just, I just look at them every day, and it just reminds me and it impacts my life. And so, that's the part that I have to remind myself when I get a little, off track, because I'm not giving like outright tangible results of, here's how to grow your mailing list, that kind of thing. But what happens is so much deeper and really is so expansive. And that stuff takes time to develop. So I've learned to be a little more patient.
Yes, and I can relate to you also on yeah, what I'm doing, I'm not teaching girls how to be an entrepreneur. Well, I may be teaching them how to be an entrepreneur if that's what they choose to be. But I'm like you, like I'm not teaching tangible like things. It's more about the experience and the expressions, really. And I had a young girl I worked with before Christmas, and roughly a week 4 of the 9-week program that we did, she said to me, she's like, I'm feeling a lot more confident. I'm walking down the hallway in school and I'm saying hello to people that I wouldn't normally talk to. And her mom, who is a friend of mine, her mom overheard me, and the mom almost broke down into tears. Because she's like, that's what I want for my daughter. I want my daughter to be okay with talking to people, to have finding confidence, to, feeling good about herself and who she is, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I relate totally with the testimonial piece, or the sharing of a client story. Yeah, it's awesome, and it sounds like really cool work that you do. I'm like, so you take your hand and you're like, that's really cool.
Literally. Well, because the lines in your hand are really reflections of the neural pathways. So the brain activity show up as lines in your hand. Mm. So when you, the major lines, because what the practice that I follow, how I describe it is, it's kind of a combination of the ancient wisdom of palmistry with the modern science of forensics. Mm-hmm. So it's not predictive. I don't have a turban or a crystal ball or anything like that. But I have seen time and again when you change, everybody's heard the phrase "thoughts become things," right? And they literally do show up as lines. So when you change your thinking about something, the lines over, can be as short as 3 to 6 months. The lines change because you are, shifting your belief system, and so each, part of the hand, each finger means something. And it really becomes this 3-dimensional diagnostic tool to show how you're wired. So there's personality aspects, but there are also the soul aspects, we call it soul psychology, of what your life purpose is about, and also what you came here to learn about, sort of your blind spot. And so it's interesting because one of the blind spots that people, and we basically choose what we want to come here and learn about, this time around. But one of the blind spots is powerlessness, and so we can get stuck in a story of, oh, nothing I can do about it. Dog ate my homework. Oh well. Or we can look at those, those events that the universe places in our path to basically go, well, here's an example of powerlessness. How are you going to deal with it, Amy? Right? And we can, not knowing that that's what we chose to understand and make an ally of in this lifetime, we kind of use it as an excuse. Oh, well, I can't do anything about it because, this is what's going on. As opposed to understanding, oh, my lesson is powerlessness. If I take this event and look at it and go, well, how can I reclaim my power here, right? Now you've exalted it and you've learned tools to help you become more empowered. Mm-hmm. And that's really ultimately the coolest part of all of the stuff that I do is I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. I'm more often reminding you of stuff that you've forgotten about, or I'm pushing you to, open that little closet of denial and take a look at what's in there and go, oh, well, that's not so scary if I, take more responsibility or control or power or whatever you want to call it around this, how then, and that's the other beautiful thing, is that when you, because you've your whole life you've had these types of situations appear in your life, so you have developed tools around them, but being able to look at, oh, these were all experiences getting me ready for the place of claiming my power back, right? And now that I have this skill, how can I help others claim their power, right? Because now you're an expert, right? Yeah. Because you really get to have that 20/20 hindsight about, oh, yeah, been there, done that, got the T-shirt.
Yeah, totally. I know, and it's interesting. We've talked about powerlessness and being powerful. So let's switch questions a little bit. And how do you stay empowered in your life?
Well, part of my way of operating in the world is to seek out knowledge. My major at Earth University is School of Wisdom and School of Love. And part of School of Wisdom is really just being a seeker of knowledge and truth. And so part of how I stay empowered is to really read a lot of the thought leaders, and to just explore ways of thinking in the world, because I think part of what where society begins to struggle is when they operate with, oh, this is just the only way to see it, and nothing else. And here in the U.S., we're experiencing a little bit of that right now in our political system. And so, I just really believe that in order to empower ourselves, we have to be really conscious of the universe, the world, the global impact that everyone contributes to, and so knowing what is out there allows me to define how I want to step into my place, and put my piece of the puzzle into that mix, so that by empowering myself that way, I contribute to the greater whole.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, you said you like to read, so this question might be kind of fun for you. What is one book, a movie, or a song that empowers you to keep going in your own life?
I probably the one that I think, how do I want to say this? Just really kind of got in my face about where I read this probably about 4 years ago, but it's called The Big Leap, and it's by it's Gay Hendricks is who the author is, and it really is how he frames it is just brilliant in that. So I speak about the comfort zone, but we have this upper limiting, in some phrases, in some worlds, in corporate worlds, like the glass ceiling or whatever, but we really have a glass ceiling about our own beliefs of what we can accomplish. And so he calls, them, we operate in our sort of zone of brilliance and get comfortable and stuff. But then there's we hit this upper limit belief, and we just kind of, well, I'm good at this, I'll keep doing this, and what he's encouraging you to do is, all right, look, where do you stop? right? And why do you stop? And what would happen if, you broke through that barrier? And I love I don't know if I'll show you. So the book is this little goldfish taking a leap from, the little bowl that he's in into the giant bowl. And that is, again, that really was sort of the impetus for me to move forward with the work that I was doing.
That's cool. That's cool. How do you get out of your own fishbowl is interesting. And one of my speaker, no, not speaker, well, he's a speaker, but one of my business teachers, he talks about that of, you're swimming around in the fishbowl, and how do you get out? Well, you gotta look for the bigger fishbowl, but sometimes you need help to get there. Yeah. So out of everything you've mentioned so far, what is one little step that our viewers can do today to empower themselves? If they feel stuck, what's something they can do?
I think that one of the exercises that I give my clients is to keep a desire diary. And this is, just a little pocket-sized notebook, and to really, when you're out and about, just begin to write down things that, and this can be, it doesn't have to be practical or whatever. I mean, it's like, oh, I'm driving down the street and I, see an ice cream shop. I want ice cream, right? Allow yourself to just say, I want this. And it doesn't mean you have to go get it, but how often do we allow ourselves, that, and when you think back of little kids and they're looking through the toy catalog, oh, I want this and I want that. And, just that act of, ooh, there's the possibility that this could manifest in my life. We don't really allow ourselves that kind of act anymore, because we're so busy with our to-do lists and all of those things that are required of us with regards to responsibilities and commitments and whatever. So what I tell my clients is just, for the next week, write down, I want this, I want that, whatever catches your eye. And it can be, a thought, I want to go to France. And then after what ends up happening after a week, there's this sort of, I don't want to say this, just the ancillary stuff sort of just kind of goes by the wayside. It was like, okay, that was fun, whatever. But what then starts to come up is, well, wait a minute, I have permission to say what it is I want. And now the real desires start showing up for you. And then when you get to that place where you're feeling it in your gut, yeah, I really do want this, then the next step is to the following week is to take those things, because it's one thing to say, oh, I want, or I desire this. It's another thing to go, I deserve that trip to France. I deserve to get that promotion. I deserve, right? And now you're taking it from the wish, thing, and hoping maybe, like with the little kid, well, hopefully Santa will bring me this toy or whatever. Now you're going, I deserve this, and I can make this happen for me. So that's one of the things I do.
That's awesome. That's such a neat idea. Thank you. I like the idea. Yeah, I want to go to Hawaii is one of mine. Yeah, that's cool. So if you have a message that you would want to say to the next generation of girls about empowering themselves. So for example, if you could go back in time to your 12-year-old, 11-year-old self, and I know that was an interesting time in your life, but if you could go back to that time and tell her something, what would you tell her?
um, I think that I would tell her that she has everything she needs within her, and to not let the voices of the popular kids or the the people that that she might perceive as having more than she does, and whatever that might be. I mean, for me, it was feeling, not having a complete nuclear family kind of situation. But for someone else, it could be a financial hardship, or for someone else, it could be, a burden with an ill parent or sibling or whatever. And just two things: trust, like I said, that you have everything you need, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Good ones. Good ones. I like those. That's so true. Who is someone you want to thank, who inspires you to be your best self, who's helped you when going through a difficult time? If you could write a thank you card to that person, what would it say, and who is this person you'd be writing to?
Well, to be honest, and which kind of reflects back to the point of, ask for help, telling my younger self that, I don't know that there is someone of that nature. I've really, to my detriment at times, have been sort of a lone wolf. Sort of been like, I got this, I can figure it out, I don't need anybody, that kind of thing. So, I can't necessarily say that there was one person specifically, and that that's pretty honest.
That's perfectly okay. That's perfectly fine. If if I need, it's fun to hear the ladies who've been on the show. It's been wonderful to hear some of their answers and what they say to all the different questions. And again, this was a wonderful wonderful answer to the question. So thank you. Let's switch our brains a bit back to more business things. And what is coming up business-wise for you that our viewers should know about? Any classes or anything like that?
Well, I'm actually in the process of shifting the focus of my work, or actually who I'm working with. I had started, just working with women who were in some ways, wanting to just know more about themselves and that sort of thing. And they were kind of okay with what they were doing, and that was fine. But in the last couple of months, I've really started connecting with women who are at a place in their careers where they're, and when I say corporate, that's probably the generic thing, but they're just at a place where, okay, I've been doing this and it's been good, and it's a paycheck, and I, whatever, but the money isn't doing it for me anymore. The promotions aren't doing it for me anymore. I'm really fed up with not utilizing all of the facets of my amazing self. I'm tired of having to kind of stifle, parts of myself because they aren't recognized or honored or even encouraged to come forward in the place that I'm at now. And so these are women who, what I say is that I help guide these creative, successful women who've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, so that they can, really bring forward all of their gifts and answer their next call to adventure. I mean, they are really going, well, what now, right? And so those are the women that are coming across my path. And they've been very successful. They've had very accomplished careers, but it's just not doing it for them anymore. And so depending, and it's not necessarily age specific per se, but they're just at that place of where I was about 6-7 years ago. I mean, it's great, it's all good. I'm having fun to a degree, but I need something more. It has to have more meaning. And what does that look like? And that's who is starting to show up for me. So I'm putting together a couple of programs. I've got one that's in the works now. It's called the Oak Tree Experience. And it's a 6-month mentoring program that I work with another woman. She's an EFT master practitioner, and we work. I mean, it's just, we did a beta test this last fall through the spring of working with someone, giving them the information that's in their handprint map, and then the pieces that come up around that limiting belief system gets worked through with the EFT, and it's pretty exciting what's going on with that. So we're putting the last touches on that. So that is probably going to come out end of the summer, beginning of fall.
Wow, good.
Yeah.
That sounds so much fun. What's next for you, Linda? Or what's like another intention? Like what's something like you want to do, but it's still kind of out there?
Well, on my desire list is to create a TED Talk. That's something that I really am wanting to do. Yeah.
That's awesome. How can they contact you?
So again, my website, it's www.findyourcreativevoice.com. And you can also email me. It's linda@findyourcreativevoice.com.
Okay, that's awesome. Awesome. And viewers, you'll see that her website, will be putting it just down below as she talks about that. So guess what, Linda? We're actually at the end. So thanks so much for being on our show. Do you have any final words of wisdom that you want to share with our viewers today?
No, that's the other thing. It was funny. A friend of mine who does a lot of branding and social media, I was on her podcast a few months ago, and we were talking about, how people put pictures and, they'll do quotes from other people and on pretty pictures and stuff like that. And I said, and she shares this as a tweet. I see it pop up every once in a while, but it's a quote for me going, you got all kinds of wisdom inside you, girl. Don't be, using other people's quotes. Use yourself as a quote. And that's really, again, what I believe is that we have a lot of innate wisdom, and we have to trust it, and we have to tune into it. And when we do, that's when we shine.
Love it. Yes. So, Linda, thank you so much again for being on the show. It was absolutely a pleasure. Just hang on a second. Don't go anywhere, and I'll come back to you in a minute.
All right. Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. So thank you, everyone, for listening in today. Remember that inch by inch, you can overcome any challenge that is in front of you. I do believe in you, and I know you can get through anything. Till next time, be brave, be bold, and be yourself. Take care.